And in that book, he says, yes, we have experience. That's for sure. Like the empiricists say, that's there. But the only way we can get and deal with the world of experience around us is through sensations. Eyes, ears, skin has to pick up the information and do something with it. So that's there as well. Now the problem with sensation is that it can be chaotic. Sometimes you can get too much sensation, like too many students walking in class. Or I'm sure if we went down to the gym and we saw them all screaming and yelling, it would be like too much of a sensation. So there's no order in the sensations. Remember the guy who made that point was David Hume, and he did it with regard to causality. Again, I talked about that last week, so I won't go into much detail. But he was actually the guy who woke Kant up, kind of punched him in the head. He said, you know, experience, it's great, but it doesn't necessarily organize the way you think about experience. That has to come from somewhere else. So Kant says, yes, there is sensation. The other thing Kant said about sensation was that there are two organizing principles, or the word is, for the sake of the multiple choice test, there are two intuitions that come with sensations, and they are space and time. Anything you feel, hear, see, touch, has to occur in space, in time. Go home, try to think of something that doesn't occur in space and time, and I'll give you an A on the next test. Right? You can't. Our sensory system is designed to organize things in space and time. Okay, so that's that. Now Kant says, after we pick up the information, it's chaotic, it's just, we know it's in space, we know it's in time, we don't know anything else. We have to have something else that allows us to understand what's happening around us. So there has to be another part of the mind, in addition to this part. There has to be a part that he called the understanding. And this part has in it the categories. And categories are like, I guess, glasses. So we have this information coming into our eyes. The categories snap onto it. And it tells us what we're looking at. It tells us we're looking at a substance. We're looking at a body. It tells us whether we should count the sensations that are there. There are 4 categories. They are quantity, quality, modality, and relationship. Know those 4 categories. What we on the test is in the book. I'm sure you know what they're all about. So, stuff happens. You walk into a room. Bunch of stuff happening around here. I know it's in space. It's out here in front of me. And I know it's staying here over time. So that much I can just tell by walking in the room. And then I have to decide, do I want to count it? How many people are in this room? What is in this room? Right? Are there body substances? What's going on? I can look at the quality. Modality. Am I dreaming this about the future, or is this really happening? It's really happening, right? And relationship. There seems to be something where you're all facing this way. Whatever's going on, there's something about you over there and me over here. That's a relationship. These things are characteristics of my mind that work on sensation and organize it. So the mind has 2 things that are going on when it's doing its job. Kant said, and later in his book, to summarize this, he said, look, we live in a world of phenomena. Phenomena refers to experiences. The word actually derives from appearances. It's the world of appearances that's all around us. But the world of appearances is not fixed. It changes, it varies with time. So we have to try to make sense of it. If we're going to think that we know anything, we have to deal with phenomena. We pick it up in our senses, we organize it in time and space, And then with the categories, we lock it in so we know what's going on around us. And in that way, we get to understand the truth, what the reality really is, the noumena. So this is just some phrases which happen to be in the book. It's noumena. I know, I kind of scribbled that. N-O-U-N-E-M-A. I'm going to spell that correctly or incorrectly, whatever. You recognize it in the book. So we live in a world of phenomena. Comes in through our senses. We can't trust it except that we know it occurs in space and time, but even that is being added by our bodies. And then we understand it in terms of the categories. And in that way we understand what the truth of the matter is. One simple illustration so you know what all this poppycock is about. What became very popular after Kant in philosophy and in psychology was the study of illusions, because illusions are a good example of phenomena, truth, and how this works. The book gives you one. Two lines that are equal, right? We know they're equal because I just drew them and they're supposed to be equal, okay? But over top, we have these diagonal lines. Now, if you didn't see me draw it, and you just looked, and you had marched people through here, and it was drawn a little bit better than that, a lot of people would say, if they looked at it quickly, the top line looks longer than the bottom line. You notice that? Good. Okay. That's the phenomena, the illusion. The top line is longer than the bottom line. We see these in space. We make a judgment about them. We have to think about them in terms of the quantity of the line, how big it is. Now, if I took a ruler out and I measured the two, and you saw that they were equal, right? There we're using quantity to organize that illusion, and that tells us the truth of the matter. If these two lines are actually the same size, they only look phenomenally different because of our sensation. We're getting distracted by the diagonal lines. But if we use our heads, use our minds, and use a ruler and count them, or count the units in the lines, we'll learn the truth that the two lines are actually the same. It's in the book. I know there's a multiple choice question. Actually, I made one up just about that with that illusion. So make sure you understand it. You got it? I hope it's not too complicated. It's just a simple illustration of what this complicated human mind is all about. And that's Kant in 5 minutes or less, okay? That's a lot to say. He's, again, I hope you remember a little bit of last week. Also, because of the test, make sure you look at the book. Just even if this is setting well and you kind of think you know what it's about, look at the book. Because that will help prepare you for when you see the questions on the test, okay? Because it's print, it'll help. Anyway, this is a jumping off point for, it's kind of the end of philosophy. This is pulling together, if you notice, he talks about experience. He says it's necessary, as the empiricists say. He just says that experience isn't all of it. And he says beyond that, we have our bodies, our sensory system. And the sensory system organizes experience so that you think you're having experience, but really what you're having is what your body is telling you, right? What you're hearing, what you're seeing, what you're feeling. There may be stuff out there that you can't hear, see, or feel, and as far as your body is concerned, it's not real. So the body is important in all of this. And, of course, to really know what's going on, you have to think a little bit. Kant wrote a paper called What is Enlightenment? And his answer to that question was, be brave enough to use your own mind and think it through. Don't just fall for whatever you happen to see. And if you think it through, using categories of understanding, you can get a little bit closer to the truth. You can see through the illusion and know what's going on. So he pulls together experience, the body, and rational thought, these categories, into one package and says, that's what you need to account for if you're going to talk about the mind. Well, in Germany, Kant was big news. They read him in high school, they knew him. It's actually, if you think of some of the other psychologists that you know, like Freud, and you read him or think about him with Kant in mind, you'll see him in an entirely different way than most of us think about him. So everybody was reacting to Kant. It was big news. Specifically, the people who were most impressed with Kant were